It looks like he was fighting these guys. He's fighting the demons.
I look upon you with pity, my lost child. For you have been deceived and enslaved by forces who regard you as nothing more than an instrument through which they might enact their blasphemous will and prevent my rightful return. They speak of light while offering you nothing but blindness. Weak hypocrites relying on the malignant power of Umbral. With one breath, then decrying it with another. They brand me evil, a tyrant, and yet I offer you something they will not. A choice. Reject the fanatical crusaders and the deranged servants of the self-proclaimed judge. Dismiss all of their false dogma and the torturous mission to which they have bound you. And only then will you know freedom. And if you would hear it, the truth.
Which one is which? Oh, okay.
Distortions of the truth. For eons, I stood as mankind's guardian, shepherding
Excuse you?
wisdom and love. Yet in return, I was betrayed. Those three power-hungry malefactors who declared themselves judges turned my own children against me and waged a terrible war of needless slaughter. Crazed followers butchered those who remained loyal to me. And when I created the Rhogar as a means to put an end to the madness, they too were no match for the heathen forces. In the end, even I fell. Although the judges found me In a world blackened and corpse-choked by their crusade, the judges banished me to this barren realm, which has served as my prison ever since. Meanwhile, mankind set about ruling themselves, free from the divine oppression of which they accused me. And yet, how little time passed before the judges themselves were raised to the status of demigods, figures of worship, their real ambition all too clear. Yet an outcome, the people deluded themselves into believing a triumph. How much blood has been spilled in their names since my banishment? Far more than was ever spilled in my name. And now, after all the time mankind have had to shape their own destiny, see what they have made of it. War, greed, hatred, suffering, chaos. They believed they were capable of guiding themselves.
He's talking. He's just talking and talking and talking and talking. Dude,
Of humanity.
shut up. I didn't come here just to listen to a talk fest. Let's just... He's just monologuing, yeah. I can't even run at him.
Why do you refuse to open your eyes to their manipulations? To millennia of shameful distortions of the truth. For eons, I stood as mankind's guardian, shepherding them with wisdom and love. Yet in return, I was betrayed. Those three power-hungry malefactors who declared themselves judges turned my own children against me and waged a terrible war of needless slaughter.
I can't even block this.
Judges, their who remained loyal to me.
I'm so confused.
The Rhogar as a means to put an end to the madness. They too were no match for the heathen forces. In the end, even I fell. Although the judges found themselves unable to kill a god, despite their best efforts. In a world left blackened and corpse-choked by their crusade, the judges managed me.
This is such a weird...
Realm, which has served as my prison ever since.
Hitboxes are so not okay.
Mankind set about ruling themselves, free from the divine oppression of which they accused me. And yet, how little time passed before the judges themselves were raised to the status of demigods, figures of worship, their real ambition all too clear. Yet an outcome, the people deluded themselves into believing a triumph. How much blood has been spilled in their names since my banishment? Far more than was ever spilled in my name. creatures, suffering, chaos. They believe they are capable
Can I just out-heal this?
themselves, but have been proven sorely mistaken. Mankind needs me now more than ever. And what of other
Oh
beings
gosh.
who claim godhood? Where are they? What of Bramis and the abhorrent unknown creature? They are cowards, hiding in foresight and obfuscating shadow, deeming you unworthy of their presence, their command. And yet, here I stand before you with true words and open arms. For I love all my children,
So much is happening,
wayward ones.
and also nothing is happening.
Listen to me. You must stop this before you allow yourself to be all of mankind for eternity. I am not your enemy, only what my own enemies fear. The loss of the dominion they have established for themselves in my absence. Cease your misguided violence. Now. You are in the presence.
No, that last fight was really disappointing, actually. I do not want to start a new journey. Okay. I guess all that's left is the review of the game. Interesting. Okay. Let's go somewhere, let's see. Just lower the master volume for this so I can talk, and pretty easy. Alright, let's talk a little bit about Lords of the Fallen. Um, all right, let's talk off about Lords of the Fallen. It's a very much Souls-like game, clearly inspired by the Souls genre. It's got the similar dodging mechanics, the similar stagger in a way. It's got different ways of fighting. It's got magic and umbral, and I think it has one more, which is the chaos or fire one. The game, let's talk about the plot. The plot exists. I don't think it is like over the top interesting. You know, it's straightforward. It's a bad guy. You gotta go stop the bad guy. And that's pretty much exactly what you go do. I know there's 3 endings to this game. But I think the story... I wish there was more interaction with characters. I wish there was actually more of a storyline with some of these characters. Like, I didn't feel connected to any of them at all. I think their voice actors did a good job at, you know, actually making them sound cool. Like, Pieta was really cool. The bosses, some of them sounded decent. But I wasn't really drawn in to any other characters. The way that this area is placed reminds me a lot of Dark Souls 2. If you look at the map, or there's a map on a wiki anyway, but just how everything's kind of just spread out on your directions, it reminds me of Dark Souls 2. Some places you have to go back to, some places you have to just wait, some places you can just jump on ahead. It's linear, but it's also, it loops. It's linear with a couple loops. I think the music was good. The bosses were a hit or miss. They were either, I feel like they were either really good or they were just eh. There's definitely a few that I look at and I'm like, yeah, I'd like to fight them again. But it's definitely not to the quality of like Elden Ring, Night Rain, Lies of P, kind of bosses. It's definitely lacking that refinement and differences. I feel like their scaling is a little weird for the bosses. Some of them will just like one tap you, or they rely heavily on burns, or just general effects to deal the damage. Some of them had some really interesting movesets, others were just kind of bland. There was one, it's the second boss, I don't remember what it's called. It's like the flesh, congregator of flesh. It's really weird hitboxes. Really weird. And I'll say that if you're going to implement parries, you should be able to do it similar to Lies of P, where it doesn't matter how big the character is or the enemy is. If you are able to perfect parry it, it shouldn't it shouldn't affect your stamina. I think this one does. Unless I'm mistaken, but I think it does. In which case, it just punishes you with parries. If that's the case, just dodge. Dodging's safer. Just dodge. At the beginning of this, until I got the great sword, I was using the two-handed, or not the two-handed, the sword and shield. The shield, I liked parrying. I thought it was fun. I thought it was cool. I thought their parry animations, their crit system, I liked that. I also like being able to regain hit points when you hit when you get into that wither state. It's very much similar to Liza P in that regard. Their armor designs, I absolutely like them. They're in the category of Dark Souls 3 for me. I think they have excellent armor and weapon designs. The combat is relatively, outside of the bosses, is relatively smooth. The art style is really good. The for the bosses, the cutscenes, I think have some of the best cutscenes in any of the Soulsborne or Souls-like genres I've seen. They do exactly what they're supposed to do in terms of make it look horrifying. And I think they absolutely crushed it, so props to them. I think one of my biggest gripes with the game is that you are fighting, and I've mentioned it in other videos, but you are fighting the same 50 types of enemies throughout the whole game with very, very, very little variety, and that gets old. It's like, okay, I had just killed this demon in tier 3 or location 3 area, and I was level 30. This demon, the same one, is in this area at tier 8, location 8. I expect just to absolutely annihilate it. It should not pose that same level of difficulty as it did in tier 3. But it did. And that is frustrating. At that point, if you're just gonna make it so the enemies scale with you or feel like they're scaling with you, and it's just the same enemies, just keep it at level 1. You don't even need stats at that point. Because there's no point. It's the same challenge, it's the same punishment. Have enemy variety. Let players feel like they're actually progressing. I think that's my biggest gripe with the game. I don't know how the co-op is. I hear that it's really good. I already touched base a little bit on the music. The setting is very much like a Dark Souls 2. I think it has some interesting ones. But none that were like breathtaking and awe-inspiring to me. I wish the story was a little easier to understand, or at least in your face. So I understand the story, but that's only because I watched like an hour and a half long lore video of Lords of the Fallen. Would I recommend this game? I actually... I probably would. I think in terms of difficulty, this is a very more... It's a more of a beginner-friendly Souls intro. In the Souls games I've played, I would rank the easiest one right now to be Lords of the Fallen. Is probably the most forgiven. And then Dark Souls 1 2, 3. Liza P, Kazan, and Elden Ring in terms of difficulty for bosses. In terms of bosses, not areas. So I think Lords of the Fallen has the easiest bosses to deal with. And the mechanics are friendly enough and forgiving enough for newbies. So if you're not sure if you'd like it, try this out. I am looking forward to the next game, which should be coming out this fall, August, I think. And I'm hoping they give you that variety in enemies. I'd like their bosses to be refined, where it actually feels smoother combat. I think some of the smoothest combat I've ever had is in Lies of P and Kazan, the first Berserker. I think is the smoothest. It's a fast paced. I guess Elden Ring 2 is fast paced. I'm hoping they have a more in-depth story. But I will give credit to the dev team because they did a lot of patches. They at least came back and took the time to address problems with the game on the initial launch. And I don't think enough devs get credit for that. Or gaming companies. So I think them just coming back, there's some redemption. And the fact that they're trying and took the community feedback and made a second follow-up game, I think would be ideal. That they're going to learn a lot, that they're going to have... I'm hoping that it's going to be better, and I'm confident it will be. That's right, we love devs that listen to players. So Lords of the Fallen, I think it's a good beginner game. I think it has its own unique taste and style. I think the bosses are friendly enough and easy enough. The story probably needs a bit of work. Character development in the game also needs some work. Cutscenes are really good. But I think overall, yeah, I would recommend the game. I'd probably put it at like a 6 out of 10 right now. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a 7. But that's kind of a stretch. I'd probably play it again, but not for a while. Also, one last thing I want to touch on is the magic system. I'm not really a huge fan of magic in any of the Souls games just because it's a lot for me, or at least it's more to learn, and I just want to master the basics. But I actually enjoyed their magic. It's very simple, 3 to 5 slots of magic. And how they made that happen, I thought was really cool because the effect was just ongoing for the most part. So it's a magic W for me. I will say that. Great job on that. And then the Umbral system I thought was really cool. None of the other games have an Umbral system where you're walking 2 different worlds. Basically, the living world and the dead world. I think that's cool. I wish there was more of an explanation behind the Umbral world, other than just it's a veiled world, a mirror. I wish there was a little bit more of an explanation. Maybe there is, and I just missed it. But it's a cool concept. Magic was a cool concept. And I'm looking forward to the next game. Hopefully they will just address some of my concerns or address some of the community concerns. And yeah, that's Lords of the Fallen for you. I think this game took me